What I've realized as being CEO is that my voice matters way more than what I think it does. Someone coming out of finance class is not equipped to have the conversation of, my husband just got diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. There's nothing that prepares you for that. You can be scared, but when you sit in front of the client, you can't be scared.
Welcome to the first episode of the Agathos Consulting Podcast. This is a podcast for business leaders, CEOs, where we talk with them, hear about their stories, how they got to where they are, and then share that with you guys so you can learn from that. And today I'm honored to have Scott Sarber with us. He's the CEO and president of Peterson Hastings. And he has, how long have you worked with Peterson Hastings?
It's coming up on 26 years now.
26 years, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I met Scott back in, I think it was like 2017, maybe. I was visiting Washington. I met him then and then ended up moving up here about a year ago. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Peterson Hastings. What do you guys provide? What's it all about?
Sir, Peterson Hastings Wealth Advisors provides financial planning and investment management services for individuals and families, as well as corporations, corporate retirement plans, things like that.
So what's the split, would you say? Do you do mostly corporate, or is it just either one, corporate or personal?
About 2/3 of our business are individuals and families, and 1/3 is corporate retirement plans or foundations and endowment type of accounts like that as well. So
Okay.
sometimes there's nonprofit organizations that have endowments, and we can manage those.
So how'd you start there?
That's a long story. So I graduated from Eastern Washington University. I was working for a brokerage firm in Spokane. That's where I got licensed as an advisor. And then my father-in-law introduced me to Jeff Peterson, who was with Peterson Hastings at that point. Jeff and I, we hit it off pretty well. He was a tennis player. I was a tennis player. We both had red hair. We both had similar personalities. So yeah, Debbie and I came down here and interviewed and been here ever since.
So did your father-in-law, what did he do?
He was an insurance agent.
Did your dad get you involved? Like, what made you interested about this?
No, my father was the reason I wanted to do something different.
No.
Yeah.
What did he do?
No, I mean, he was a construction guy, and actually,
Okay.
he was one who really taught me work ethic, and that it's really important to work hard. As a construction person, it's difficult. Construction is a difficult work. And there was a couple of summers where I realized I wanted to use my brain instead of my brawn for the rest of my life. And that's what really basically got me back, into college to start studying finance. I knew that I always wanted to be in business for myself, so to speak, or to lead a company. I thought at the time I was really into sports. I still love I love sports. I mean, I have a lot of sports analogies that go along with business and things like that. But I thought at some point that I was going to be like some sort of retail store, like specialty, like a ski and snowboard shop or something there where I can help people basically enjoy the sports that they love.
I know you do a lot of different sports. What are some of the sports that you enjoy?
So mostly for the last 10 years or so, I've been doing multi-sport, which is like mostly triathlon. So it's just swimming, biking, and running, or any combination of that, any combination of those events. So
I know there's like different triathlon levels. What ones have you done?
So I've done multiple Ironman 70.3s, which is a half an Ironman event. And Ironman is a national brand, so I want to make sure that I'm giving kudos to them. But so a full Ironman is a 3.2 or 3 mile swim, essentially, a 110-mile bike ride, and a full marathon at the end of that. So triathlon is split basically off that Ironman. So if you have a full Ironman, then you have a half of the Ironman, which is half of that. The Olympic distance Ironman, or the Olympic distance race, is what the distance they run in the Olympics is 1/4 of an Ironman. And then they also have a sprint distance, which is 1/8 of an Ironman.
Okay. So you've done double of the Olympics, right?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I can barely run a mile.
I've
run 5.
Well, you can't do it day one. You have to,
Yeah.
definitely have to work up to it. But one of the reasons I like the sports, it's kind of like you're cross trained because you're doing the 3 events, even though the 3 events are individual events that you have to train and perfect yourself. Putting all 3 of them together is even harder. Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of dedication, patience, discipline, consistency, all those things, in order to do a sport for that long. as far as like race day could, is 6 hours. So you got to have a lot of things in place. To me, it's like kind of running a business. I mean, you can't just go out there and do it. You have to do some research about like how you're doing it, why you're doing it. You have to get nutrition right. You have to have right equipment. If your shoes don't fit or you get a flat tire on your bike, it's basically game over. So yeah. So there's a lot of little things that go into it. Just like business, I think is just like a lot of little things done right. The fundamentals have to be right in order to make the organization run. If that makes
So what
sense.
Yeah, it does. What would you say are some of the key fundamentals from your perspective for business?
For business,
Yeah.
everything starts with trust. And you got to have trust. They have a pyramid. You've probably seen the pyramids basically where trust is at the bottom, and then you have some accountability. Then you have basically difficult conversations, and then results up at the top. I might have got that a little bit wrong, but it all starts with trust. If people in the business are not operating and such like, hey, I don't understand. I mean, there's always going to be conflict, right? So conflict resolution is always a part of business when you're working with people. I think I heard somebody, it might have been Dave Ramsey once, that said like the only kind of ship that doesn't sail is a partnership. So, like if you have more than one person in your organization, there's basically going to be some conflict, and how you resolve that conflict, um, is basically, yeah, that's how business goes. I mean, because, culture, they also say that culture trumps strategy. And so if you have a culture of an organization where people are not ready to resolve conflicts in a healthy way, then yeah, it's just not going to work.
So did you have to do a lot of changing the culture when you came in as CEO, or was there times like how did you go about influencing the culture, or how do you, because you're still doing it?
Yeah, culture doesn't happen overnight either, right? So, I mean, you got to change culture. And I did have to change when I became CEO here. There were some cultural things I needed to change. Accountability needed to step up a little bit from the top position on down. And results, we weren't getting the results necessarily that we wanted to, as we weren't growing as fast as we wanted to grow. And so yeah, there were a number of things structurally that we changed, but there were also things culturally that we changed as well. Even little things like um, developing incentive compensation for things. Basically, so if you want results, you can incentivize them and then you'll see if that works and get the results you want.
So what did you put like certain review cycles in place for accountability? Like, do you use any kind of framework for that, or just in general?
Yeah, I mean, so we basically set up more of a structure where we set up a structure where people were getting regular reviews where before maybe it wasn't as formal. So yeah, we incorporated like regular performance reviews ongoing, make sure that people are heading toward the career path that they wanted to be, really just set them up for success as far as like, hey, this is where you could be down the line and you demonstrate you're having success in these areas and you can advance. And with a company like our size, there's lots of room to advance. The opportunity is pretty much unlimited.
I'm trying to remember where your offices are. How many locations do you have?
We have 3 locations now. We have 3 locations, Kennewick, Walla Walla, and Spokane. So
Okay.
in 28 total people.
So what's something after you became CEO or even before where you did something wrong or you messed up and learned from it? I'm sure you don't mess up often, but
Oh yeah, no, there's plenty of mess ups. You know, I think what generally happens is, like I said, if you have more than one person in an organization, there's gonna be some conflicts. We all do things differently. We all process things differently. If you and I were given a task, we're gonna approach those differently. So I think most of the time, if you come in with understanding that people are trying to do their best, they are doing what they're doing projects the way that they know how, and their process is going to be a little bit different. You basically have to give them room for that. Now, so if the results aren't up to par, then you got to have a difficult conversation of like, hey, your work, you didn't achieve the end result, but the end result, so the end result should look the same, but I think that there's many paths to how one gets that end result. And any two people are going to get there differently.
So did you start out trying to like force people down the same path and then you realized,
No,
they'll
no,
have
no.
to,
Like
okay.
I have way too many ideas of how to do things, right? Like I can come up with ideas by the minute, and they're not all good ideas. In fact, some of them are pretty bad. But so I mean, you just have to kind of, yeah, you have to vet those things out too, and basically say like, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish. Let's set a path to get there.
So with new ideas you have, how do you vet those? And then kind of along with that, like setting strategy, do you have a process you go through? Because you've got all these ideas coming to your head. How do you know which ones to try, or how do you experiment without risking too much?
That's actually a good question because what I realized as being CEO is that my voice matters way more than what I think it does. So basically, people will hang on words that I say. And if I am thinking through something and I say something out loud, then people might be thinking like, oh, this is what Scott's thinking. When I'm really not thinking that, I'm just processing, something out loud. And so sometimes it can be misinterpreted and yeah, that's tricky. So I've had to learn how to curb most of my ideas, at least by speaking them out loud, until, something kind of percolates up the top. And then I can meet with my leadership team and basically say like, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. What do you guys think? And then even then, a lot of times sometimes I'll have to preface it with, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. It may be really crazy. It's not the direction I'm going, right? I'm just thinking about this. I need you guys to help me process this. So then that, kind of takes away the perceptions of like, oh, Scott's thinking about stuff. We got to get ready to change our day.
Do you let them kind of contribute new strategies and kind of do like brainstorming sessions, or
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Quite a bit. And we have, like, we do an offsite, we meet offsite once a quarter just to basically say like, hey, how are we doing on our key metrics in our core areas of business? What changes do we need to make? Basically, solving issues, solving problems. Like, hey, what's the problem? Why are we behind on this? Uh, and then once a year, like in October, so we just got off of our our 2 day basically off tree. We're strategizing for next year and the next 3 years, the next 10 years. So yeah, so we have those strategies built out, and then we're always looking back to see like how are we doing compared to the strategy that we said 3 years ago. Yeah, so far we're doing pretty good.
So if a CEO was going to start doing those sessions where you go away and plan, would you have any advice for him or her to do that?
I would have it facilitated for sure.
Okay. Like
Um,
by who?
what's that?
Facilitated by just someone on the team
I would have it
as the main.
facilitated, yeah, by some sort of consultant
Okay.
that either you've worked with or that you trust that knows the organization a little bit. I think the facilitation is helpful because it lets everybody to have this brain space to be brainstorming and thinking about things, right? As opposed to like, I gotta think about this, and plus I gotta help facilitate the meeting. I think that's really hard. So I think there's a lot of value in having somebody facilitate it. It's not like they are inserting their opinions or, they can ask clarification type of questions, stuff like that, because I mean, sometimes things get said that people are like, what'd that mean? I think that's really important. We've had our sessions facilitated in the last probably 10 years or something.
So I guess it kind of helps bring in someone that has a outside voice that's not so close to the, company or whatever. They can keep things objective maybe too.
Yeah. And then, I mean, consultants, they're trained in the ability to keep things on track, right? And they're also trained to, basically ask the same set of questions all the time that basically like, is this everything you need? Did you get everything out of this meeting that you wanted to, right? Like these things are basically like, yeah, in a regular meeting seating or in a regular meeting setting, you know, someone's not going to really say like, hey, you know, at the beginning of the meeting, you said you wanted this, right? Did you get it? Where a consultant is like, that seems like it's always on the top of their head of like, yeah, I want to make sure that everybody got what they wanted to out of this meeting.
For people that maybe aren't CEOs and are aspiring CEOs, What would be like a day in the life of a CEO? What would it look like? I'm sure that varies a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that.
Lots of meetings, probably.
There's meetings or thinking about the future. There's, meeting with, meeting with our like top vendors, because we have our accounts are custodied at large firms, networking with other people that, can help with the business in some regards or the other. So it's pretty, I would say for me, it's pretty diverse. Yeah. So the day is like, I'm not doing the same thing every day for sure.
Do you still get opportunities to do like the wealth advising, or are you pretty much all managing the business
Yeah.
side?
In my role, I'm still doing both advising, have about 80 clients and over $100 million worth of money that I'm managing personally. So that keeps me, I think it's important in this role because it kind of keeps me in the game a little bit. Helps me to know what kind of questions our advisors are getting from their clients and where things are at. So I don't think if I was doing the role, I think it'd be kind of tough. If our firm was maybe 5 times as big or something, then I would probably wouldn't have time to do that. And the CEO role would probably be more demanding.
Which do you like better? Do you enjoy the interaction with people, or do you?
I mean, it's well, it's not. It's almost like what kid's your favorite, right? I don't really have. I don't. I like them both. I like both aspects of it. But I'm having a lot of fun with the leadership stuff. I think leadership is definitely different than management, right? I think leadership is, if you can get people to believe in what the company is doing, believe in you as a leader, know that, you know, not say happily follow, but basically if you're on board, right, then employee engagement goes up, right? And employee satisfaction goes up. The culture of the organization is a fun place to work. People look forward to come to work. They have friends at work. Um, yeah. And, but you also have to have the results, right? So if you don't have the results, then, one, not getting results isn't as fun, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure you've been again back to sports. So like if you're playing but not winning is not that great. Losing is not that great, right? Really,
yeah.
winning is great. So if you can set some goals and you can win on those and then celebrate those as a team, that's pretty great.
So what do you do to make it a fun place to work? Like, what are some tips for someone who has a horrible work culture?
Yeah. So we actually have a committee that just plans fun company events. So whether it's a picnic or whether it's fantasy football or whether it's NCAA March Madness, where we have like all the conference rooms have TVs on, the whole games are going. Um, just bowling. There's community service events that we do together. We've built houses for Habitat for Humanity on days, on sponsored charitable organization days off that we give. So yeah, we do a lot of things to help keep the employees engaged.
Do you have ways to get feedback from the employees in addition to that committee,
hmm
like feedback loops?
Yeah, our HR software has feedback loops, so we're constantly tagging people and I'm asking them 1 or 2 questions every quarter. I think it's every quarter about just what the organization's like and where they're getting.
You mentioned software. What role does software play in your business? Do you feel like that's a key part of it? Or
Can't operate without software.
yeah,
we have mission critical software. The interface is between our custodians and us. So if we didn't have the interface, we couldn't trade on accounts. We couldn't view accounts. Our reporting software is really important. Obviously, our client relationship management software is really important. So yeah, if the cloud isn't accessible, it makes the job really hard.
have you guys dabbled in AI at all?
Not much. I think we
Not
have some
really.
advisors that do it. We're actually exploring a note-taking software right now where like if this message, if we like you're recording this, but I can record meetings And then the AI would basically just record all the meetings, set all the action items and things like that. So we're actually testing that right now with select group of advisors to see like how accurate it is and if it's, if it's reliable. But yeah, the
Awesome.
software basically, so it would take the notes, it would capture the notes, capture the action items. And then the next step on top of that would actually build the workflows around those action items. So if someone needs to open up an IRA account, you can say like, Joe needs to open up an IRA account, and then it would actually kick off an IRA account workflow. So if it could do that, that'd be pretty cool.
Be awesome. So what's the time that you had to make a really hard decision, and how did you work through that?
A few years ago, we had one of our offsite meetings, we had contemplated about changing our name. The Peterson Hastings has been around since 1960. It was previously a company called Benefits Northwest. And then everybody thought we were an insurance company. So they changed the name to Peterson and Hastings, which were the last names of basically the founders, Peterson and Hastings. So we thought as we expand into different markets, people in those new markets won't know who Peterson and Hastings are. So, does it really make sense to retain the name of Peterson Hastings as we are now growing much faster? So we hired a marketing consultant to look at a name change and then a rebrand and basically a rebrand for marketing. Well, we do still have a Peterson in the business. So the third generation of Peterson, Matthew Peterson here, of course, he was very opposed to having a name change, which totally understand it. There's another two stakeholders were very passionate about a name change, thinking that maybe the name change is prohibiting us from growing as fast as we could. So, and then meanwhile, I'm thinking, we spent a lot of money marketing Peterson Hastings, just the SEO and everything, just basically just the pure amount of resources it would take to get caught up with a new name compared to the old name would be a lot of money. And so, those were some difficult conversations because it was a split interest on the name change. And, there was a lot of emotion behind it with the name change. And, so I think if anytime you're making a decision where there's a lot of embedded emotion, it makes it much more difficult to maybe even think through things logically because we're emotional beings generally. And so, I've heard it's like number greater than 99% of our decisions are emotional decisions. So, so if there's a lot of emotion built in a decision, then it becomes harder. But we worked through it. There was definitely some tense moments. Were moments where people were starting to, not trust a lack of trust was starting to creep in. And it was more about just having the conversation about it than, it just basically just working the problem. We basically just had to sit each other in the room and talk around it. And basically all the voices had to be heard until we're finally like, okay, well, what are we going to do? We can vote, right?
Yeah. How have you developed that emotional intelligence or ability to not let the emotions influence your decision? Does that come naturally to you or something you've had to work on?
I'm generally pretty decent with emotional intelligence, but there's other times where I'm like, wow, how did I miss that? You know? And like I said, there can be that. It's like you can kind of be operating around, just doing your day job. And then all of a sudden, like, man, this decision, even just like last week, whatever, we had a person leave. They took another job and it was so we were talking about, well, I was talking with my director of administration and we're like, hey, would it make sense to basically have somebody else besides their direct report do the exit interview? And so, we think exit interviews are important, right? At least if people are honest about like, why'd you take another job? That's good feedback because then we can learn from it and maybe improve the experience from for the next person coming in. So I thought, well, maybe we'd get more accurate answers if, if their direct manager was not the one doing the report, right? Because most people leave because they don't like their manager, right? So I made a decision. It was just like, yeah, you just do the interview. Well, I didn't realize that the direct report would be like, hey, why am I not doing this interview? And so that hurt feelings. So there's little things like, yeah, you're just making decisions. You're trying to be quick, but sometimes being quick isn't as effective as circling everybody in because that, having that really quick decision could eventually take more time resolving the conflict that it creates.
So with the name change, did you guys come to resolution on that?
We came to resolution on that.
Okay.
We kept it the same. Well, we added wealth advisors. So
Okay.
It was just it was Peterson Hastings Investment Management. We do a lot more than just investment management. So yeah, Peterson Hastings Wealth Advisors
Gotcha.
is where we landed.
So I'm assuming emotional intelligence probably also helps with like investing, right? Because you can't get all emotional with the market, with how things change. You
Or
have to
yeah,
be
our
more.
investment process has to be very non-emotional, actually. But managing the client emotions is the tricky part, right? Like, I tell advisors that are entering this business, like the math is easy, right? Anybody can do the math. You can set up an investment process. You can develop an investment portfolio, and basically those things don't really change, right? I mean, they may change if there's a new factor that's described for that's going to enhance returns. A client's risk may go down, whatever. So you're making changes to the portfolio. You know, tax law might change, which makes it better for one particular set of bonds versus another set of bonds, whatever. But yeah, managing people and their expectations is way different. Like you're not equipped. So someone coming out of finance class is not equipped to have the conversation of like, my husband just got diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. Am I going to have enough to live? There's nothing that prepares you for that.
How do you when you hire people, how do you get them ready for that? How do you
You get them in meetings, lots and lots of meetings, and you shadow behind an experienced, competent advisor who has been doing it. And if they run into a situation where they're not equipped to do it, they're educated and trained to defer that until somebody else with more experience can come to the table.
when you hire people, are there certain soft skills or things you're looking for like your top things
I mean, you
that
have
are
to be able
most
to
important?
communicate. You have to have a presence. You have to have a presence of a little bit of, I won't say like confidence. Yeah. I think that this role, like the role of an advisor, definitely requires confidence. Cause if you're like, if you come to me for investing, like, hey, how should I do this? You're like, well, you could do it this way, or you could do it that way. I mean, you have to really be convinced, like, no, like, this is what you got to do. Right. And so, because people are looking for that, people are looking for leadership with their finances, right? Just like the people here are looking for me to be the leader. My clients are looking to me to be the leader of their investment portfolio. And especially like in down markets, I mean, like in 2008, 2009, it was a scary time. Like I was scared, but I had a mentor tell me I'm scared. Like I've had clients like lose like 60% of their money. I mean, that's a lot. Like $2 million went to 800,000. It's a lot. I was scared. And this mentor that I had was just like, yeah, you can be scared, but when you sit in front of the client, you can't be scared. I was like, yeah, okay. He was like, you can't be scared in front of your team either. You gotta have the confidence, like we're doing the right thing. This is all gonna be okay. It's still gonna work out. Just keep doing what we're doing. We're helping people. We're helping people through this. And so, yeah, so that was impactful. I hope I don't have to go through something like that again. I'm sure I will at some point, but that was not.
So how do you keep clients through all that? You have to just, I mean, I guess everyone's going through the same thing, but you have to continue to reassure them of
Yeah, everything is
just how
going through.
things go
Yeah,
up and
yeah, yeah.
down.
So most of our clients hire us because they know they can't do it themselves or as well as themselves, right? They're looking to us to be the experts in the room. During that time, we had three different types of clients. We had the clients that basically just listened to us and said, yeah, okay, you guys are doing fine, just fine. At the time we were doing rebalancing. So rebalancing means basically you're buying low and selling high. So when the stock market went down, if you have stocks and bonds in your portfolio and the stock portion of it decreases relative to the bond portion of it, we sell bonds and buy more stocks, right? So you're essentially selling high and buying low. So we were doing that. So those people that basically made no change, just let us continue to manage it. By the end of like 2012, 2013, whatever, they had made all their money back plus. We had people who basically said, okay, stop rebalancing. Like we can't rebalance anymore. Those people, it took more like 7 or 8 years to break even. And then we had other people that said like, sell it, I can't take it anymore. Fortunately, I think there was 3, just put me in money market. Those people like literally haven't got back to where they were in 2008. So yeah, it's way better to basically stay the course. And so, but yeah, some people can't handle it. And so also like during that time, I wouldn't have necessarily said, even though I've been doing this for a long time, I wouldn't have thought that a portfolio of 60% stocks and 40% bonds, I would consider moderate. Well, I wouldn't consider a moderate portfolio dropping 40%.
So for the people in the first group, for most of them that stayed the course, able to get back everything they lost
Oh yeah. I mean, most of
when
them
it bounced back?
I'm trying to think by 2015 or 16 or something like that, it basically doubled.
Yeah. Did you have people that had to they were trying to retire right then, right when the crash happened?
Yeah. Or had
Yeah.
just retired.
Oh man.
Then in
So
2020 when COVID hit, I mean, we had tons of people retire. Like, yeah, 2020, 2021. I mean, we retired a lot of people. People are just like, I don't want to go to work no more, afraid to go to work. I don't want to work remote, blah, blah, blah. Life's short. I want to travel the world. Yeah. A lot of people retire.
I've heard retirement age is increasing. Is that true? Like people are staying in the workforce longer or
No, I
not
mean, I haven't
necessarily?
really seen that.
Okay.
I haven't really seen that. It's a mix. I think a lot of people that retire earlier, especially like people that work out like the Hanford area, a lot of them go back to work, or they do some sort of part-time thing that they enjoy. So they had the financial freedom to go ahead and stop that employment where they were employed, but then they might go on to do something else because they enjoy it.
Gotcha. So I've heard the phrase before, kind of switching subjects a little bit. People say it's lonely at the top.
Yeah.
So do you feel that? Like, do you feel like it's like it's only you, or you mentioned a mentor earlier. Do you intentionally seek out people to meet with and learn from?
Well, like I mentioned before, like being at the top, your words matter. And so I've definitely felt the lonely at the top phrase. Thinking like, yeah, I'm like this decision, like I'm the tie breaking vote or whatever here. And basically I'm making this. And there are people who may not be my friend anymore after this decision. I mean, that part is tough. But again, if you're convinced in your mind that you're doing the right thing, then it'll be fine. But yeah, it's definitely different being at the top. Even being second is like way different than being first. It's just different. And with my personality and maybe my background of where I came from, I came from very meager means. So being in this position, sometimes I just kind of have to like slap myself of like, hey, like I can't believe I'm here, sort of thing. And I've never felt entitled to be here. And so it's just kind of like it's kind of a humbling experience more than anything, probably. Yeah. Yeah. But in the top, being the final decision maker, it's a lot of weight.
Because of where you have come from, did you ever struggle like with confidence or thinking, oh, maybe I can't do this?
No,
Or have you always been just a pretty confident person?
no, I've never had a confidence or potentially even an arrogance problem. I've just, or maybe that has been the problem. No, yeah, I've never really dealt with confidence issues.
That's good. What would you say the role of mentors has been in your life as you've come into the role as CEO? Do you think that's essential for CEOs?
I think it is. I think mentorship is essential for CEOs. I think being part of a CEO group, whatever, is important. Um, and so, like, yeah, if you can get plugged into one of those groups where you can get some feedback, like, so for me, I think feedback for CEOs is actually tricky. So I've actually hired people to do like 360 reviews from me and the team, so I can improve. Because otherwise, I think that people, it's tough to give feedback to CEOs unless there's a formal way to do that. Yeah, and being part of a mastermind group or some sort of group, I think is important as well. So you can bounce things off like, hey, I have an issue with this. One of my executives, whatever, how do you think I should address it? Because you can't really, if you're having an issue with another one of your executives, like you can't really go to your other executives and talk about it because it's just, yeah, you have to have some method or some person to talk to about that to help you through that stuff.
I noticed you're also on a board. What how does that take quite a bit of your time? What's your role there?
So yeah, I'm on a couple of different board director positions. Are you talking about the nonprofit ones
I think the
or
one that
Peterson Hastings?
Peterson Hastings under.
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? So, um, every company needs a board of directors, right? That the CEO needs to report to. Well, I'm on the board of directors. So as a small company, you don't really have like the direct, I don't know if you want to call it the wall between management and governance. For me, we have a board of directors of 4 people, which I am one of them. And as a CEO, I report to the board. And then all these other people that are on the board are actually employees. So so they report to me, right? So it makes it complicated, but I don't know how in a small business you can really get around that too much, especially like if you're shareholders in the company. I mean, I think ideally, you would have a board of directors where the CEO reports to the board. No employees are on the board, but we're definitely like a few years away from that. Because with our service organization, the our buy sell agreements and things like that basically say that you have to be an employee to even have ownership. So if you're going to be a shareholder, you have to be an employee of Peterson Hastings. So if you're going to have shareholder employees, I think you're always going to be, um, you're not going to have the ideal corporate structure from a governance standpoint. But it does get messy. Like sometimes I have to think like, okay, what hat am I wearing today? Am I wearing my board of directors hat? Am I wearing my CEO hat? Am I wearing a shareholder hat? Am I wearing an employee hat or an advisor hat? Right. So I probably have 5 hats that I'm changing out throughout the day.
What do you think your favorite hat is to wear? Is it like the children again? They're all
I mean, the CEO role and the advisor role are the two. Yeah, because I'm either helping the growth of the company and our people, or I'm helping, the clients. So as long as I'm in a role where I'm providing direction, helping people, adding value, that's where I want.
So as we start to close up, a couple questions, and if you don't have an answer, that's fine. These are just random. But do you have a favorite book about business or set of books that you would recommend?
I think one of the business books that's made the biggest impact on me is a book called Traction by Leon Sinini, something like that. Yeah, that's an awesome book. It basically, right from page one to the end, it's very practical tips on their system for leadership and management and how to put together meaningful meetings that get things done.
Awesome. Yeah, I've read that. That's a good one. So what's your favorite food?
Probably a steak and potatoes guy.
Steak and potatoes. Okay. What about favorite sport?
Oh
Is it the
man,
multi-sport or
I love basically all sports. Favorite sport to probably do would be probably either, yeah, triathlon or tennis,
and what are
ball,
some of the other sports you've done?
baseball, football. soccer.
And you do like skiing and snowboarding,
Oh
all
yeah,
that
oh
too.
yeah, skiing and snowboarding. I mean, but yeah, skiing is what I was best at of all the sports. Snow skiing was what I was best at. I grew up like 30 minutes from Mount Spokane, so I would ski 60 or 70 times per season. I'd go up after school. They had night skiing. I'd go up. School would get over at 2:30, whatever. I'd ski until 7 or 8 every day, just all day on the weekends. I could have been in ski movies. It was just, that's how good I was. But again, not a confidence problem, right? But yeah, no, like I really just playing outdoors, hunting, fishing, hiking, and stuff like that. Well,
Well, I really appreciate you coming on here.
cool.
I know Fridays sometimes is your golf day, so sorry if I'm keeping you from a game of golf.
Nope, not today.
Okay, awesome. But yeah, thanks for your time. Definitely check out Peterson Hastings, especially if you're in the Tri-Cities area. Anything else? Any closing thoughts?
Nope. Nice
All
talking
right.
to you.
Yeah, have a good one.
Bye.
See ya.